चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita discussion on the Sarartha Varshani Tika of Srila Vishwanath Chakra Thakur and the sub commentary by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur called as the Rasika Ranjana Tika. It's a sub Tika, we can say. Tika ka Tika. Commentary on a commentary is called as a sub commentary. So, we have been in the fifth chapter, which is a very interesting chapter, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Whereas all the acharyas generally title this as the Karma Sannyas Yoga. And we have discussed, Arjuna has the same question. If Gyan is better than Karma, then you're telling me to do both. How is it possible? So it's basically asked the same question. Now Krishna gives a deeper answer. We went through it quite in detail. You know how Gyan is one step ahead of karma on the ladder, in the yoga ladder. Because by Nishkam Karma Yoga, with the purification of the heart, one becomes Jnana Nishta and his Antakaran is purified, so he can take sannyas from karma. That is what is called as karma sannyas. So now Krishna in his answer, he says, that it's not that one is above the other, he, flattens the ladder. And then he puts Karma Yoga on a higher pedestal, Karma Yoga Vishishyate. And the reason we saw from going from action to inaction, the soul is active by nature, it is difficult. And then ultimately from inaction, the highest yoga is Bhakti Yoga. You have to come back to action. Then it also is very difficult. So that's why Krishna is recommending that even if you are situated in Gyan, practice Nishkam Karma Yoga. So the Gyan is, more fixed and steady. So he recommends Arjuna to practice Gyan, So that's why he says, Tayostu karma sannyasat karma yoga vishishyate. And then it's only the, foolish, the mimamsakas, who think that, these are two different paths. But ekam apyasita samyak ubayor vindate phalam. If one takes up to any of the path, he will get the same goal, that is liberation. And yat sakya prapyate saman tam yogerapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sah pashyati. And then he gives why karma yoga is better, vishishyate, because sannyas, giving up action is not the natural tendency of the soul, whether in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, because the soul is active by nature. That's why it says dukkham aptuma yogata. Whereas the Yoga Yukta, who is performing Nishkam Karma Yoga, he can easily attain liberation in the form of Brahman realization. And then in the second section, we discussed how by fixing the mind on Atma, the Karma Yogi remains free from bondage. You know, Yoga Yukta Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma, Jitendra, Sarva Bhuta Bhutatma, Kurvanapi Na Lipete. So this is also addressing Arjuna's concern that Arjuna, if you fight this war in this consciousness, you will not be bound by the reactions. And then that famous verse we discussed, Naiva Kinchit Karomiti, and then Brahmanya Adaya, you do Nishkam Karma Yoga, you for offering the actions to the Supreme Lord, Brahmanya Adaya Karmane. So Lipitena Papena, he's not going to get contaminated by sin because he's like a Padma Patra Ivambasa. He's like a Padma. And then how with the body, mind, and words he, yogi is engaged for purification. Sangam tektva atma shuddhe. So we saw this. And then he again compares between the yukta and the ayukta. That is the Nishkam Karma Yogi and the Sakam Karma Yogi. And then within this, there is the knowledge of three doers. And yesterday we began this discussion of the three doers. The three doers are Jiva, who thinks Karta Amati, whereas Prakriti does it. But Prakriti is inert. Prakriti is under the control of the Lord. Prakriti kriyamani gune karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma. But Maya dekshena Prakriti, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this Prakriti is under my control. So there are three doers. So this knowledge of the three doers is being discussed in this section from 13 to 16. So yesterday we discussed 13. I'll just touch upon it and then continue the discussion of 14 and 15. Sarvakarmani manasa sanyasaste sukam vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kuryan karayan. So renouncing sannyas, the activities, sarvakarmani. How? By the mind, manasa. While engaging in them, controlling the senses, vashi. He's fully controlled his senses. He remains comfortable. Dehi sukham aste. The soul is comfortably situated in the deha. And the deha body is what? Navadvare pure. It's a puri. It's a city made of 9 gates. You know, two nose, two eyes. Not two nose, it's one nose, sorry. Two eyes, 2 ears, mouth, anus, and genitals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it's two nose only. Left and right. Right. Naiva kurvan nakarayan. He does nothing, because he has renounced all the actions. So there is, although he's doing actions, there is no reaction. So we saw that he is a Nitya Sannyasi. So now we'll come to this next verse. So you have to understand the flow which is happening now in these verses, and I will discuss these verses, all these verses together, and then take up questions. So the soul doesn't you know naiva kurvan na karayan. He does nothing nor causes anyone to act. So then who causes? You know who causes then actions? you know so in the next verse it is, whether it is the Lord or what. So this is verse is answering, na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. The Lord does not create. So if the jiva is not the cause, karta, as in the previous verse it was mentioned, it's only out of ahankar he thinks as the karta. That is foolish. But one who's a nishkam karmyogi, who's self-realized, he doesn't feel that it is the cause. You know. So then is it the Lord then? No? So the Lord also does not create Prabhu. So here the Lord is addressed as Prabhu. Prabhu na srijate. Doership of the jiva. Lokasya karmani kartrutvam. Kartrutvam. Yeah. Nor does he force the results of actions on the jiva. Na karma phala samyoga. So the Supreme Lord also doesn't create the individual's tendency to act, nor the actions themselves, to, and nor the resultant reactions. That is the karma phala samyoga. Karma phala samyoga. Karma phala samyoga. Na kartrutvam, na karmani. Hmm. Pushing to do actions, and nor he gives the sense of doership, to the jiva, nor karmani, that pushes him to do action. Like Arjuna is being pushed here to do action of fighting, No, he is giving the free will, he is giving the knowledge. And neither he creates what? The results of action on the jiva, karma phala. So this takes place by the jiva's nature, swabhavastu pravartate. So, here you have to understand again, This is the soul. I'll take a different color. And this is the subtle body. And this is the gross body. Now, our Swabhava is situated in the subtle body. Swabhava. And based on our Swabhava, we have a tendency which is called as Swakarma. So the Swabhav is impelling. It's a Swabhava. Atakena prayuktem papam charati purusha annichanapi varshneya baladiva niyojasa. So kama esha krodha esha rajagna. And this Swabhava at the individual level in the subtle body is called as Swabhava. At a macrocosm level, it is Prakriti only. It's Prakriti. It's Prakriti only. What is our Prakriti? Sometimes we say, no, iska Prakriti, iska Pravritti, something like that. We say like that. So Sabhava. It's caused by the Sabhava. So this is what the Lord is, saying here. Okay, let's go through the purport and then, I will narrate a small, interesting story to make this philosophical point clear. Then it will become clear. Well, if the Jiva is actually not the doer of activities, where it is being stated that the Jiva is not the doer of activities, is not the doer of activities, where it is stated, who will answer? Where the Jiva is stated not the doer of activities. Sumit Kapoor Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Guruji, is it 2.47?
Prabhuji,
नहीं, that is कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते.
you have to at least read the verse and understand the meaning. you know, Ma karma phala hetu bhur.
That was actually.
We are now in the fifth chapter now. Yes, Vinita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Huh?
Is it 3.27?
But there, 3.27, karta aham iti manete, he thinks I am the doer.
Yeah.
That is a karma kandi who is
That is
absorbing
the
bodily
question.
consciousness. But,
That is the
but here, the jiva is actually not the doer of activities. Where
okay.
it is described.
He thinks himself the doer of activities.
Pardon?
In the translation, it is written that he thinks himself the doer of activities.
Yeah, that is what is a, now, okay, let me make it still more simpler. One who is self-realized,
Mhm.
Naiva kinchit karomiti, that verse was there, 5.8 and 9. It's Indriyani indriyarteshu vartate te dharan. I have nothing to do, it's interaction. I am, no. So that's why he is not entangled. So where did Krishna discuss that the Jia is not the doer of activity? Who is this personality, which was discussed? Nandini Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, next verse to that, Prabhuji, 10th one,
Only
5.10.
5:10. No, just the previous verse. सर्व कर्माणि मनसा संन्यसास्ते सुखम वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन् न कारयन्. He does nothing at all, nor causes anyone to do. So just, the jiva is not the doer here. So, so that's why this was discussed. So it is the swabhava. So whether now, okay, the jiva is not the doer. So is the Lord, making him do? You know. So that is also refuted, na kartrutam, or he is pushing him to act, karmani, or he is the result, giving the results of actions, karma phala samyogam. These three things have been mentioned here. No, karma phala samyogam. No, nor the actions themselves, nor the resultant fruits, but all is happening because of the sabhava. So that's why it's a sabhava. So, well, if the jiva is actually not the doer of activities, which is already explained in now this previous verse, 5.13, then from seeing the jiva doing and enjoying everywhere in the universe created by the Supreme Lord, I think that Lord has created jiva's illusory doership and enjoying and forcing it upon the jiva. So, this is the question is being raised. The Lord has created. But here this verse is refuting that. Therefore, injustice and cruelty must be present in the Lord. Because the Lord has created this, you know. No, that is not true at all. He does not make the jiva do activities, nor does he give the jiva the results of his activities. Na kartvatva, na karmani. This is 5.14 P1. And na karma phala samyoga. 5.14 P3. Karma phala samyoga. So I mentioned, we call this pada 1, pada 2, pada 3, pada 4. No? Anustab chanda, no? All the meter is mostly all the verses. Rather, the nature of the jiva in the form of his beginningless ignorance alone produces this. Swabhavastu pravartate swabhava. This ignorance makes the jiva assume the false identification as the doer. Whereas one who is realized, he doesn't identify that I am the doer. Whereas somebody who is not realized, he thinks kartam iti manate. I am the only doer. He doesn't give credit to God, the God, because by Lord's mercy I am able to accomplish this. He himself takes, you know, you know. Actually, if you see, the Lord has to sanction and Prakriti has to support him, then only he can do. So there are three doers, but he himself takes credit that I have done this. And in fact, this body is made of Prakriti. And the Prakriti, this body is under the control of the Lord. This whole universe is Prakriti, it is under the control of the Lord. But foolish Jiva, he thinks, I have accomplished this. This is heights of foolishness, But whereas the self-realized soul, which is explained in this, he naiva kurvan nakaryan is, So this is the point being made here. Okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ishwar does not inspire people's sense of responsibility, nor their prescribed duties, nor the results of their work. So three things he is saying. Kartrutvam, ये आपका कर्तव्य है, you should do it, Their prescribed duties, karma, it is your karma, and karma phala samyoga. Rather, these come from their acquired nature, swabhava, everything being propelled by avidya, ignorance, since time immemorial. So, it happens that one day, one friend comes to another friend, and they're both sitting in the room, and this other friend, gives a proposal. Come, let's loot the bank. And this other friend, likes the idea. And they both hatch a plan and they both go and loot the bank. Okay. And when both are looting the bank, this person who had given the idea, he somehow escapes and then goes and informs the police, and this other person is stuck whom he had given the idea. And then the police come and they catch him. And then this other friend who had given the idea, he escapes and he's gone. And the police catch him and they imprison this person. And now he's in the jail. And the next day, he's produced in the court. And in the court, the judge who is sitting, it is his friend only who is sitting as a judge. And this friend is surprised. Arey? And then he's sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment. So what will the victim tell? Arey, you only gave idea. You only came with me, and you only through the police, caught me, and now you only as a judge are punishing me. So he'll blame, whom? His friend. So in this story, you have to understand that there are three things. There are three things. I'll share the slides. I'm going to explain these concepts a little more in detail. There are three things. Yeah. Who is the karta? If a criminal is jailed, the police is the instrumental cause. The judge is the sanctioning cause. The criminal is the initiating cause. So now you tell me, among these three, you know, which refers to, the Lord Paramatma, Prabhu, the Jiva, and Prakriti. Tell me, let us see. It's very simple. Who will tell? Navneet Kalramataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, then what?
Hmm.
The criminal is the Jiva, Lord is the judge, and the Prakriti is the police.
This is the Lord, and this is the police. So this story I told, this other friend came and he told, let's loot the bank. And he liked the idea and both together went. They both looted the bank. And this other friend who had given the idea, he escaped and went and informed the police. The police catch him, produce him before the court, and his friend only is there as a judge. So he'll tell ultimately, Arey, you know, you only gave me this idea, but actually in his sabhav, those vapsanas were there, and ultimately, he took a call on it. So the initiating cause, ultimately, the jiva has to suffer the reactions. That famous murderer in Bombay many years back, it is maybe 30, 40 years back, he was murdering people who were sleeping on the streets. What is his name? Very, very famous murderer. Anyone remembers, recollects? You can raise your hands. Who had murdered n number of people and he was escaping. Raghav Ranjan or something. Raghav, something. If I anyone remembers this murderer? Anyone remembers or no? Who are from Bombay here? Vinita Mataji, you remember? What is his name?
No, Prabhuji, no idea.
Oh, it's around 30, 40 years back. He had murdered, I think, maybe 50 or 100 people who were sleeping in the street night. And the police was after him. They were trying to catch him. At last, he was, yes, Niti Mataji, yes?
Raman Raghav.
Raman Raghav, yes, Raman Raghav. And at last, the police caught him. And then, when he was produced in the court, he was telling the judge, actually, uh, I was not murdering. The Lord was instigating from inside me. So he was blaming, the sanctioning cause. But actually it was what? The sabhava. The sabhavastu pravartate. This verse is saying sabhava, that instigates the jiva. And ultimately when the sabhava instigates the jiva, the Lord has to sanction, because without the Lord's, and then the Lord orders prakriti. And the prakriti, without the help of the prakriti, the body is also made of prakriti. So there are all these three kartas. Then only, it is accomplished. So the jiva is not the swatantra karta. So if a soul suffers, The soul is the initiating cause. The super soul is the sanctioning cause, and material nature is the instrumental cause. That's why Prabhupada said, don't blame the instrument of your own karma. Very profound statement. Very, very profound statement. So that is what is being explained here in this verse. Okay. So it is, well, I'll take the questions. Let me finish these three verses together. And then now the Lord is saying, Na datte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritim vibhu ajnanena vritam jnanam tena muyyanti jantava. Thus the Lord, Vibhu, now the Lord is addressed as Vibhu. In the previous verse, the Lord is being introduced now. You have to understand. He is addressed as Vibhu, Prabhu. Till then, it was all indirect. Brahman, Tat. Yagyartha karmano anyatra lokoyam karma mandana tadartham. And Mayi Sarvani. But now he's been, the Lord does not receive nadatte kashit, the sinful or pious recreations of those actions. So these actions the Jiva does, the Jiva does actions, if he blames the Paramatma, then the Paramatma should receive the actions, but the Jiva receives action. So ultimately, the Jiva will be held responsible because he is the initiating cause. So that's why the Lord does not receive nadate, the sinful or pious reactions of those actions. Papam cha sukritim cha. The Jiva's knowledge is covered. Jnanam avritam by ajnanena, because of ignorance. Because of this, living entities are bewildered. Tena muyanti jantava. Now, this is a very, very profound, wisdom. And I have seen many, many in my years of Krishna consciousness, sometimes very, very exalted, elevated, sannyasis or very pure devotees, you know, sometimes they go through some crisis in their life, like health or accident or whatever. And sometimes the other neophytes, sometimes who were, you know, jealous or envious, of these devotees, they sometimes blame, oh, see now, because of, his karmic reactions are coming up, because of that. Now he's suffering because of that. But we don't know what is Krishna's plan. Krishna sometimes he puts his pure devotees into suffering, and that is not because of prarabdha. The Pandavas also are suffering. It doesn't mean that the Pandavas had prarabdha. No, the Lord, want to show how his pure devotees are steady even, you know, amidst, and he wants to set an example to show how lofty their level of consciousness is. So it's a neophyte, sometimes they blame and then they get into these offenses. It's because of ajnanena avritam, tena muyyanti jantava, because they cannot understand the subtleties of all this. Since the Lord does not make the jiva do either good or bad actions, he does not experience the results in the form of suffering or enjoyment. He means the Lord. The Lord, just like is like rain. And on the earth, whatever seeds are there, you know, the seeds will sprout. So some places the neem tree will come, some places a mango tree will come. So the mango tree is like happy fruits, pious fruits. The neem fruits is like sinful reactions, impious. So ultimately, what will you say? It's because of the rain. But no, it is because of the kind of seeds we had. So ultimately, the jiva, it's not the Supreme Lord. So he does not experience, he does not accept, na adate them. He is not responsible for them. However, one of his associates, his Shakti called ignorance, ajnanena, covers the inherent knowledge of the jiva. Ajnanena avritam. By this, because of this, tena, the jivas are bewildered and hence act and suffer or enjoy their karma. So ultimately, Queen Kunti in her prayers, avidya. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Queen Kunti in her prayers, no. mentions avidya, kama, karma bhi. So because of avidya, we have desire and we do actions, and then the result is what? Suffering. Pious action, reaction is also suffering because you have to again take bodies and be in the material world. Sinful actions also suffering in form of sinful reactions. So it's only because of avidya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by nature, the jiva is full of knowledge, jnana swarupa. This swarupa is covered by avidya shakti, deluding potency. Thus, the jiva comes into a state of bondage. And this is anadi. Please remember, beginless what? Ignorance. In this situation, the jiva is bewildered, thinking, I am the body, and he proudly thinks to be the performer of his actions. Now, here you have to understand Jnana Sarupa. It doesn't mean that, like the bulb has the potency to, you know, uh, you know, give light, you know. But the bulb has to be connected to the electric source, and that electric source has to be connected to the power station. The potency in the bulb is there. So the potency in the jiva to attain knowledge, which is sometimes called as samvit gyan, you know, uh, you know, samvit, the samvit shakti, you can say, not samvit gyan, samvit shakti, knowledge, potency of the Lord, So by which he can understand his swarupa, you know, and then based on what sampradaya he is touched, we are in touch with now the Gaudiya sampradaya, we can understand, uh, the Golok rasa, you know. It's not that, our forms are, eternally there in the spiritual world. No, it is based on the association and development, you know. So that bulb, has the potency to emit light, but, you can have different shades and colors in it, So there are different rasas, sakya, vatsalya, madhurya, like that. So that's the point. So who is the karta? If the soul is not the doer, whose reactions is he getting? Whom are the scriptures meant for? The soul is not the karta means the soul is not the swatantra karta. He is not the swatantra karta because there is ultimately the sanctioner, that is the Lord, and there is prakriti which executes it. So when the soul thinks he is a swatantra karta, then he is karta ham iti manyate. Ahankar vimudatma karta aham. I am the independent doer. So otherwise, there is no need to teach scriptures. And he's getting reactions. Why is he getting reactions then? You know, because he is the initiating cause. That's why he's getting the reactions. Who is the karta? If a tree is cut, axe is the instrumental cause, and woodcutter is the initiating cause. For the actions in the world, Prakriti is the instrumental cause, Jiva is the initiating cause. And ultimately, the sanctioning cause is the Lord, which I, mentioned here in this example. So you can see the soul, wants to enjoy sense object and he desires. And the super soul is there, Upadrushtacha, Anumantacha, and he might sanction. So when he sanctions, material nature executes, and then he enjoys sense gratification. But he thinks, I got these objects of sense gratification by my, ability. I worked very hard, earned money, and then I went for a foreign tour like that. No, ultimately, if it is not sanctioned by the Lord, you know, then and material nature, the body is made of material nature, and material nature doesn't. The sense gratificatory items are made of material nature. So ultimately, when you think you are the Swatantra Karta, then you know. So sometimes the scriptures, you know, say that, you're not the doer, you're not the doer. Sometimes, they ascribe doership. When scriptures want us to free us from attachment and pride, then they emphasize you are not the doer. When scriptures want us to take responsibility and initiative, then they assert you are the doer. Hmm? So Krishna also will in the 11th chapter, Mayeva Vihita Hitan Nimitta Matram Savyasachi. Oh Arjuna, I have already killed them. Now you become the Nimitta and fight this war. It's like that. So both these aspects are there. No? Okay. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam esham nashitamaatmana tesham atityavajnanam prakashayati tatparam. So it is because of ajnana avritam jnanam tena muyanti jantava. So how this ajnan can be destroyed? Jnanena. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam. And when this is destroyed, nashitam atmana tesham adityavaj, just like the sun. Aditya sun is compared to the knowledge, prakashati. So ultimately, it will reveal tat. Now, tat refers to what? Who will answer? Tat refers to what here? Tat refers to what? Who will answer? Sumit Kapoor Prabhuji. Are you there? Sumit Kapoor Prabhuji? Are you there or no? Navneet Kalra Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hmm.
Does it refer to the super soul?
Yes, it refers to the super soul in this context. Can refer to the supreme also. It reveals the Jiva Swarup also and the super soul. When the Jiva is Vidya, Esham Atmana Jnanam, destroys avidya, Tad Ajnanam Nashitam. That Vidya, Tesham Jnanam, like the sun, Adityavad, reveals Prakashate, the spiritual knowledge within the Jiva, Tat Param. As ignorance or avidya covers the knowledge of the Lila, the Lord's another energy called Vidya destroys ignorance and reveals knowledge. By the Vidya Shakti, Jnanena, avidya, ajnanam is destroyed and knowledge of the Jiva is produced. Just as the glow of the sun destroys darkness and reveals objects like pots and cloths, so Vidya destroys avidya and reveals the spiritual param, knowledge in which the Jiva is convinced of his spiritual nature. So it reveals, his swarup also first. Thus the Lord does not bind anyone, nor does he liberate anyone. But the Vidya and the Avidya, which are the qualities of Prakriti, liberate and bind the Jiva. Note, Sri Jiva Goswami in Paramatma Sandarbha explains that Vidya and Avidya are the two aspects of Maya. So this Maya has, in fact, three aspects. There is the Vidya, Shakti, and then there is the Avidya Shakti. Somehow. Oh, there we need some space. So I will rub this whole thing here. Take an empty slide. So this Maya has this three aspects. The Vidya Shakti, then there is the Avidya Shakti, Avidya or Avidya, what you call. And then there is the Pradhan. The Lord glances at Pradhan and Mahatattva is there and all the elements are created by which the Jiva gets the gross body and the subtle body. So this Vidya potency destroys the avidya. And it's only because of the avidya covering on the jiva in the form of gross and subtle bodies, he's not able to realize himself. So though both these vidya and avidya are the potencies of Maya, they are not spiritual. Please remember that. So that's why the path of jnana, karma, and ashtanga are within the modes. They are within the modes. Please remember that. Karma is mostly passion. Jnana and ashtanga are in the mode of sattva. So to ultimately liberate oneself, one has to transcend the modes. And bhakti is the only process which is transcendental. Bhakti is the only process which is transcendental. So that is why even in the Jnana Marga, the bhakti which is there in the Jnana Marga, that will ultimately alone has to remain, and by that bhakti, he will attain liberation. And similar is for the Ashtanga. So this is now going to come up. It will come up in more detail, when we discuss the last 6 chapters. By the Vidya Shakti, Jnanena, avidya is destroyed and knowledge of the Jiva is produced. Just as the glow of the sun destroys darkness and reveals objects like pots and cloths, so Vidya destroys avidya and reveals the spiritual knowledge in which the Jiva is convinced of his spiritual nature. Thus, the Lord does not bind anyone, nor does he liberate anyone, but Vidya and avidya, with the qualities of Prakriti, Maya, liberate and bind the Jiva. Jiva Goswami, I mentioned this, are 2 aspects of Maya. The qualities of Prakriti are the cause of bondage in the form of instigating the Jiva, the qualities of Prakriti. So here, Sabhavastu Pravartate, it was mentioned in 5.13. No? To become the doer and the enjoyer. So, moment you have that sense of doership, then you are entangled in this karta aham iti manyate, That's why one first thing in Nishkam Karma Yoga it is said, what? Karmanyava adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturvo. Don't think that you are the cause of your action. And become the doer and the enjoyer, and they are the causes of liberation in the form of such qualities as detachment and peace. So detachment and peace, these are qualities, The respective qualities of Prakriti are awakened by the Supreme Lord, functioning in the capacity of the super souls. Tat Param. He is only the initiator of Bhakti functions through his amsha or expansion. That is as a form of the super soul. Thus, he does not show any injustice or cruelty towards the jiva. So based on the kind of swabhava he has, he had that criminal tendency from his previous lives, and that's why he was able to kill so many people. He was carrying that, and that's why the Lord was sanctioning it. Although the Lord was sanctioning, you cannot blame the Lord. Ultimately, you will be held responsible, and you will have to suffer. That famous trial happened where he said, I am not doing. Actually, the Lord in the heart is speaking to me to kill this person. Okay, so this I mentioned about the Avidya and the Vidya Shaktis. Knowledge is of 2 types, mundane, Prakrit, and transcendental, Prakrit, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Prakrit means knowledge related with inner matter and is called Avidya, or the ignorance of the Jiva. Transcendental knowledge or Aprakrit Gyan is called Vidya. When the material knowledge of the Jiva has been destroyed by spiritual knowledge, then that supreme spiritual knowledge awakens within and enlightens him about the supramundane absolute truth. Okay, so now the last section is 17 to 29. By fixing the mind of Paramatma, karma yogi attains liberation. So we will take up this, but how the fixing of the mind on the super soul happens, we will see from 17 to 26. But before that, if you have any questions, we can take up till now. Do you have any questions, clarifications? 1 second. Give me just 1 minute, please. Oh, a lot of questions. 3 questions. Hey. Yes, Tukaram Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
We say soul is pure and our swabhava causes actions. I mean, whether they are good or bad. And why the soul should suffer? My question is,
I'm still not able to clearly understand your question.
yeah. If the soul is pure, why it should fall within the grip of swabhava, and why it should suffer?
That is what the soul has been covered by
Ignorance.
avidya. And this avidya covering is from time immemorial. Anadi avidya it is. And because of, that ignorance from time immemorial, and he considers himself the body,
Yeah.
and that is why he has a desire to enjoy. That's why he's been given the gross and subtle bodies. And he desires, karma. And then he does actions and then he suffers.
Yeah.
Got the point?
Yeah. Avidya. Avidya is the
Yes. The avidya, which is the covering potency on the soul,
Yeah.
And why then the Lord covers? It is since time immemorial. That you cannot question. Okay. Okay. Navneet Kalra Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Could you please explain in 514 the first word karitvam?
514, what do you want? Explanation?
The first word na kartvitam.
Kartrutvam.
Yeah.
So here, 1 second. Okay, let's share the slide. The doership of the jiva, kartrutva. Kartrutva is, the doership, So then, who is the doer, If the jiva is not the doer, maybe the Lord is, causing the jiva to give this sense of doership. The Lord is giving this tendency to act. Is it the Lord who is giving this tendency to act? So that's why I quoted that famous murderer. What is his name? Is it Raghav Rama or something, right? Yeah.
So what is the difference then between karatvatvam and karmani? Karmani is the action.
Kartrutvam na kartrutvam na karmani. Kartrutvam means, that doership, and based on that, action. So I'll give you a very simple example. Sometimes, some innocent people, you can just keep on pumping them, and tell them to do something wrong activity, and they get carried away by it, right? They get carried away. And ultimately, what you will tell, Array, these people instigated me. Otherwise I would have not done this. Otherwise I would have not done this. But ultimately, it is there within him. He is he has, until he initiates it, nobody can force it. So the Lord also doesn't, you know, uh, create the doership of the jiva for doing actions. And then neither he forces the results. So in that story, that thing I told, his friend only sitting as a judge, he might tell, Array, you only instigated me to rob the bank. And now you're only punishing me. This is unfair. But ultimately, that argument will not hold good. You will be suffering. So the
It
jiva
means
is the
that
initiating cause. That's why the Lord,
yeah.
the Lord, that's why will not take the results of suffering or happiness. Because the Lord is what? He's a sanctioning doer, sanctioning cause is.
And secondly, what is the how to understand Prabhu and Vibhu?
How to understand Prabhu and?
Vibhu.
Oh, okay. These are, addressing the Lord directly. The Lord is called as Prabhu. Prabhu means the Lord, you know. And Vibhu means, the Lord is Vibhu Chaitanya, infinite consciousness. And we are Anu Chaitanya, infinitesimal consciousness. Vibhu means very vast, So here, directly the Lord is being addressed now, first time in the Gita, He's being addressed as Prabhu and Vibhu. So, Prakashayati Tatparam, it reveals, now the revelation of all of the self is there, because that self revelation is here only in the, in 5.8 and 9, Yoga Yutta Vishuddhatma, he's self realized. But now there is a realization of the super soul. Gradually, with this knowledge, deeper this knowledge, and then there is, along with the self, there is a super self. So that knowledge is being given here. Now, the yogi, he is fixed on the self. His mind is fixed on the self. Now he fixes it on the super self, which will come in the next verse, which is the most critical verse in the Bhagavad Gita. After this, it will come up here. Tad buddhas, tad atmanas, tan nishta, tat parayana, gachanti apunaravrtam, jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. So then he now fixes his meditation on the Paramatma. Because only when one fixes on the Paramatma, then the Karma Yogi can attain liberation. By fixing the mind on Atma, the Karma Yogi is free from bondage, but he is not liberated. Padma Patram Imambasha is, but he is not liberated. Only when his mind is fixed on Paramatma. So the revelation of the Paramatma, that knowledge, this knowledge of understanding these three doers, ultimately will reveal, just like the sun reveals all the objects. So it reveals Prakashati Tatparam.
One more question, Prabhuji. Is the Vidya Avidya what we generally call para, apara?
Yes, sometimes it is called as Paravidya and Aparavidya. Para is transcendental, apara is, mundane.
Material.
But again, we'll have to see in the context. Prabhupada doesn't go into the technicalities here, but within the flow, it is referring for Nishkam Karmayogi. Prabhupada's, because he directly gives purport from the Bhakti context. So Prabhupada doesn't, yes, Jnanena tu tat ajnanam, he doesn't, by knowledge, Isham Nasa, Jnanam. So Prabhupada directly, surrender. He goes to surrender, He directly, speaks about surrender, directly to the Lord. But here it is, meditation on the Paramatma. So like that.
Okay.
What
Thank
was
you,
the question?
Prabhuji.
Once again, what did you ask
I
actually?
said, I said the Prakriti you said had three components: Vidya, Avidya, and
No,
the
Maya.
inert
Maya has three components.
Maya.
Vidya,
Yeah. So
Avidya,
is the
and
Vidya?
Pradhan.
So Vidya, is it para and apara?
Para. It depends. See, now Vidya, when within the, Maya Shakti, Vidya and Avidya have different, have meanings in that context. But, the Chaito Darpan Marjanam, Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, Shaya Karva Chandrika Vitarnam, Vidya Vadu Jivanam. So there that Vidya is directly referring to the Bhakti
Apara.
potency, which is Samvit Shakti of the Lord. Samvit,
Okay.
Samvit Shakti. It is directly referring to the Bhakti Shakti, in fact. So which is completely para, transcendental.
Yeah.
But as here, the Vidya, as I mentioned, it is in the mode of goodness.
Hmm.
It is in the mode of goodness, because that's why these paths of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga are in more of mode of goodness. They are not transcendental paths.
Hmm.
Only Bhakti is only transcendental. That is why in the Jnana and Ashtanga path, the Bhakti element which they practice, that Bhakti element only gives them liberation. And in fact, they have to give up that, Jnana practice at the end, in fact, and they have to just take shelter of Bhakti element only. And by that strength of that Bhakti, they attain liberation. Otherwise, they'll be attached to Sattva. And Sattva cannot give liberation. Something which is transcendental only can take you to the transcendental
Yes.
platform, right?
Yes.
So that will come up in the next verse now, very soon.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hari Pran, Chakraram Prabhuji, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Yes.
What I have understood, Maya into three parts:
Maya has
Vidya,
three aspects.
three aspects: Vidya, Avidya, and Pradhan.
Yes.
And how, what comes in Pradhan? So we call it Maya, and
No,
Maya
no,
and
no, no, no.
Prakriti is
What
one.
comes in Pradhan means Pradhan is when the Lord glances at Pradhan, the Mahat Tattva ultimately, creates these 24 elements. And that is the gross body and the subtle body of the Jiva. Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Bhayu, Kham, Manur, Buddhirevacha, Ahankar, Iti, Amme, Bhinna, Prakriti, Ashtada. So the gross body and the subtle body, it's made of 24 elements. There are 8 divisions given, but totally there are 24. So Pradhan is what gives the Jiva the gross and subtle bodies to identify himself with matter.
And all these three are, Maya is Prakriti one.
Pardon?
Maya and Prakriti is one.
Yes, you can use them synonymously also. You can use them synonymously. But Maya has these 3 divisions, 3 aspects: Vidya, Avidya, and Pradhan. Or you can say Prakriti also there. But we will come to, when we come to the 13th chapter, how these terminologies we use, in what context we can use, and in different contexts it has different meanings. Sometimes they can be used synonymously, sometimes in a particular context, particular term has to be used. We'll come to that later on. Okay?
Fair enough. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Yeah. Any other questions anyone else has? Okay, so we will stop here. It's already 8:20 and I don't want to start a new section. So tomorrow we will take the last section, which is a very small section, and complete the discussion on the 5th chapter and take up any other question answers. And then from day after, we'll start the 6th chapter. Thank you very much. Grantraj, oh, you have a question, huh? Yes, Nandini Mataji.
Hari Bol, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, this question is not related to today's topic. Can I ask Prabhuji?
But it is in context with what the discussion is.
Yesterday, you at the beginning of the lecture, Prabhuji, you said ki hearing, we do hearing, selective hearing based on our consciousness.
Correct.
So, Prabhuji, I just wanted to know, like, that is true that we very much, like, based on our false ego, we take and we reject things. So, how can we, like, improve it, or, like, how can we uh, come out of that zone
Yeah,
of selective
basically,
listening?
our tendencies, because of our nature conditioning, and we have likes and dislikes, and that's why our consciousness is attracted to those sounds. So as we advance in Krishna consciousness and hear from advanced souls, and then we broaden our understanding, and then slowly as the consciousness elevates, then you know we we you know we can sense all these things. We can sense all these things. So other day, I just for a few minutes, I heard the live class given by His Holiness Swayam Prakash, Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj. and he was mentioning how the sannyasi and his disciple were just crossing the street in the midst of all the noise, and the sannyasi asked, are you hearing someone, crying for help? He said, no, no, but there was some pigeon, and Maharaj could hear that, you know. And then he asked his disciple, I could hear, why you could not hear? Because he had compassion and he could hear that voice. He was tuned to it. So similarly, when you drop a coin, everyone is greedy for money. Everyone's consciousness will. So our consciousness is attracted to those sounds which we are having attachment for. So when the consciousness gets elevated, then you are indifferent to it. That is what yada te moha kalilam buddhir veti tarishati tada gantasya nirvedam shrotavya shrutasya cha. You will not get affected by all that what you have heard, because you have transcended, and then you are tuned to the spiritual qualities. So that qualities, you can access those signals. You can access those signals. Once I was standing with the sannyasi and discussing something, and then another devotee also came, and just little far away, a dog was tied, and it was suffering, because it was tied. And we were discussing, we did not really recognize it, but the sannyasi was feeling compassion for it. See, it's tied and it is going through so much. Tell the owner, go and release it. So that sensitivity, spiritual sensitivity, will come with the elevation of consciousness. I hope it makes sense.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.